CreepyCorner stories.
Hey everyone, welcome back to CreepyCorner stories. You know, diving into the dark web is always risky, but sharing these stories with you makes it worth it. I'm curious, where are you watching this from right now? Let me know in the comments below. I've noticed that these kinds of stories hit differently depending on where you are. It might even make the experience a little creepier. So, tell me, are you watching from the safety of your home or somewhere less secure? I work on a project trying to clone Jesus. After the operation was finished, the man disappeared. Hey Reddit, I never thought I'd actually post here, especially not on a place like r/NOSLEEP. But after what happened, I don't really know where else to go. I guess I just want someone to hear me out. Maybe writing it down will make it all feel less real. Or maybe it'll help me sleep again. Either way, buckle up, because this isn't just some midnight Reddit rabbit hole story. This really happened, and it started like something out of a Netflix conspiracy thriller, but it ended like a nightmare I can't wake up from. Okay, so a little backstory first. I used to work in biotech. I won't say which company exactly. I'm trying to stay anonymous for reasons that'll become obvious later. But let's just say it was one of those clean, white-walled Silicon Valley startups that got a little too much government funding during COVID and then quietly kept operating under the radar. My job? DNA analysis and replication. Think CRISPR stuff, but like version 2.0. I wasn't one of the geniuses inventing the tech or anything. I was just a data grunt, running code, organizing samples, comparing strands. Simple stuff. Or at least it used to be. Until Project Nazareth landed on my desk. That wasn't the real name of the project, obviously. Internally, it was labeled Z-Alpha Protocol, but people whispered about it in the office like it was some sort of taboo. A couple of my coworkers joked that Z stood for zombie or zero patient. Someone else said it meant Zion. No one really knew. The files were restricted to a handful of level 4 researchers and the lab director. Somehow though, I was pulled in to help sanitize the raw data. At least that's what my assignment email said. What was strange right away was the DNA sample I was given. It came in this frosted black cryotube with no label except a red cross and the numbers 33.30. Most samples came from donors. Blood, saliva, skin scrapings. This one didn't have a source file. No ID, no location, no name. The genetic data, it was perfect, like weirdly perfect, unnatural. All the junk DNA, the random mutations, the silent areas, were just clean, organized, like someone designed it. I ran it through our comparative database, which includes everyone from ancient mummies to modern presidents. Don't ask how we got those. I don't even know. And here's where things started getting weird. There were hundreds of near matches, all of them religious relics. Shroud of Turin, bones from old European catacombs, a blood sample allegedly from the Holy Spear found in Armenia, and the match rate was insane, like 99.87% to all of them. I showed the data to my supervisor, thinking maybe it was a corrupted input or a database bug. He looked at me like I'd just handed him a nuclear launch code. Then he told me, verbatim, "You didn't see this. You're not assigned to this project anymore." 3 days later, I was reassigned to basic pathogen indexing. Boring stuff. Just labeling flu strains and cross-checking them with vaccine resistance. But that wasn't the end of it. About 2 weeks later, I get a DM on Instagram. No name, just a single image. It's a photo of a man standing outside a Starbucks in Jerusalem. He's barefoot, wearing a plain grey hoodie and jeans, long hair, unshaven, kinda like a homeless guy, but something about his face. It was weird, not scary, just wrong. His face looked like every face I'd ever seen, like if you blended every image of a man from a church stained glass window, every AI-generated Jesus photo, every Renaissance painting, you'd get this guy. Like he was perfectly average in every way, but somehow unforgettable. The kind of face your brain tries to remember because something deep in your lizard brain recognizes it. The caption on the photo said, "He's awake." That's it. Then the account deleted itself. I couldn't screenshot it in time. Couldn't trace the user. Nothing. The next morning, the same photo showed up again, this time on a random Christian TikTok account that usually just posts Bible quotes. The comments were going nuts. Is this AI? Why does he look so familiar? Bro, that's literally Jesus outside Starbucks LMOO. This was taken in my neighborhood yesterday. I swear. It got taken down within an hour, but it was too late. I'd seen it, and I knew who he was. The sample they gave us wasn't from a holy relic. It was a reconstruction. They weren't testing Jesus's DNA. They were trying to clone him. Now here's the part where things go from weird to straight up disturbing. A few nights later, I was in my apartment in San Francisco. It was like 3 a.m. I was scrolling through Reddit, just chilling, trying to forget about all this, when I hear a knock on my door. Not a loud one, just this light tap, tap, tap. I thought it might be a neighbor or something, but when I looked through the peephole, there was no one there. I waited a few seconds, then I opened the door. On the floor was a small cardboard box, no markings, just black electrical tape wrapped around it. I brought it inside like an idiot. I know, classic horror movie move, but I wasn't thinking straight. Inside the box, a USB drive, and a small sealed glass vial with a reddish fluid inside, and a note. He remembers the cross. That night, I had the most vivid, violent nightmare of my life. I was strapped to a table in some white-lit lab, like the one I used to work in. I could feel blood running down my arms. I could hear screaming, not mine, but someone else's, and standing over me, that same man from the photo. But he wasn't quiet now. His eyes were bleeding, and his mouth was smiling. He looked down at me and whispered, "You shouldn't have played God." I woke up screaming. The USB gone. The vial shattered on my kitchen counter. No signs of forced entry. Nothing on the security cam. But the worst part? On my bathroom mirror, written in red marker, though I don't own a red marker, were 3 words: "I forgive you." So, this isn't a dream. I tried telling myself that for days. I turned off my phone, deleted every trace of the lab from my LinkedIn, burned the note, but I couldn't forget what I saw. Not because I didn't want to, because I literally couldn't. Something had changed. It started with my hands. I could smell the blood on them. Not just a little metallic sting, like a paper cut or something. I'm talking about thick, rotting, copper-stained stench that hit me even after scrubbing until my skin peeled off. Doctors said it was psychological. Residual stress, olfactory hallucination. They prescribed me sleeping pills and meditation apps. None of it worked. Then the audio hallucinations began. Not voices. That would have made more sense. These were echoes, like faint memories of screams, distant, echoing through stone walls. I could hear water dripping, chains rattling, and something crying. I started recording them. I used a cheap voice recorder I got off Amazon, left it running at night while I tried to sleep. Nothing happened the first 2 nights. On the 3rd night, I played it back, expecting nothing. But there it was, a voice, dry, hoarse, like it had been screaming for years and only just learned to whisper again. You split me into pieces. Now each one remembers. I dropped the recorder and nearly smashed my phone, trying to call someone, anyone, but I couldn't. My hands were shaking so hard, I couldn't even unlock the screen. I felt like something was behind me, watching, breathing down my neck. When I finally turned around, no one was there, except a handprint on my fogged-up window. Not mine. Too long. Too thin. That was the last night I slept in my apartment. Fast forward 3 days. I'm sleeping on a friend's couch in Berlin. I'd flown out of the country using a burner passport. Don't ask how I got it. Old connections. I just needed to disappear for a while. My friend Elias was one of those conspiracy junkies, always talking about the Vatican hiding alien artifacts, or how the pyramids were built by time travelers. He thought my story was hilarious, until he saw the video. I didn't want to show him at first, but the paranoia was eating me alive, and I needed someone to believe me. I had found a hidden folder on an old SSD from the lab, labeled simply Gethsemane Protocol. Inside were dozens of video files, surveillance footage, all time-stamped over the course of 2 months. Each one showed the same room, a stark white chamber, like an asylum, one-way mirror, concrete walls, and in the center, him, the clone. Only, he didn't act like a clone. No tests, no interviews, just pacing, staring at the mirror. Sometimes he'd sit and just mutter things in ancient Aramaic. Other times he'd scream in perfect French, Mandarin, Russian, Latin. Not gibberish. Full coherent sentences. Stuff like, he never stopped dying. He remembers each death like a nail. Every version of me breaks differently. And in one video, one I can't erase from my head, he looks directly into the camera and smiles, like he knew someone, maybe me, would watch it one day. Elias didn't laugh after that. He just got real quiet, went into his room, locked the door. A few hours later, I found him in the bathroom, trembling, covered in blood. Not his. He kept mumbling something over and over. I saw him in my dreams. I saw what you made. He wouldn't tell me what he saw. He just took a knife and carved a cross into his chest. Not deep enough to kill himself, but deep enough to scar. He said it was the only way to mark himself clean. I left that night, and I haven't seen him since. But here's where things turn truly inhuman. There's something no one tells you about clones. They don't just copy the body. Somewhere, somehow, memories leak through. I know how that sounds. I didn't believe it either. But listen, the man we made, he wasn't just walking around with perfect DNA and model cheekbones. He remembered things, trauma, torture, the crucifixion, each wound, each lash of the whip, every splinter from the wooden beam they made him carry. He relived it, over and over. And the worst part, we didn't make just one. That SSD had more files. The logs showed they created 12 variations, each one using slightly different reconstruction methods from different relics. Version 1, Shroud, derived from the Shroud of Turin. Version 2, Lance, from the bloodstain on the spear of Longinus. Version 3, Host, taken from a 700-year-old consecrated communion wafer kept in Vatican vaults, and so on. But they all had one thing in common. None of them lasted longer than 33 days. One by one, each version either self-destructed or disappeared. I don't mean they died. I mean they vanished. Out of locked rooms, vaults, isolation chambers. Like something called them back. Except for version 6. That's the one I worked on. And he didn't vanish. He escaped. There's one final thing I haven't told anyone. Not the doctors. Not Elias. Not even myself, really. I've been trying to pretend it's a lie, but it isn't. When I was in the lab that last week, before I was kicked off the project, I saw him. Not through a camera, not in a file. In person. They let me into the observation room. Said it would be educational. He was sitting there, silent, breathing slow, eyes closed. I stared at him for 10 seconds, maybe 15. Then he opened his eyes, and I swear to God, in that moment, I saw every single death in human history behind those eyes. It was like looking into a hole that never ends, a void filled with screams and fire and divine silence. Then he spoke, and I'll never forget what he said. Why did you bring me back if you were just going to kill me again? He said it with tears in his eyes, like a man asking a question he already knew the answer to. That night, the fire alarm went off in the compound. The footage showed nothing. No intruder, no forced entry. But when they checked the chamber, it was empty. Just an empty chair, and bloody footprints leading toward the wall. A wall with no door. I've been running ever since. Every city I go to, I see him. On a bus in Istanbul, outside a McDonald's in Bangkok, standing silently by a highway in Iowa as my Uber drove by. Same clothes, same eyes, like he's watching, like he's waiting. I don't know how many more of us he's going to visit. I don't know what he plans to do, but I know this. He remembers. And if you're reading this, he might be coming for you next. They always warned us never to speak of version 13. We weren't even supposed to know about it. His file wasn't in the digital archive, not on the SSD, not on any lab computer. The only reason I found out about him was because of a document I was never meant to see. A physical binder, blood-stained, handwritten, buried under concrete inside one of the sublevels beneath the lab, hidden in a metal box with no label except a burned-in cross and a string of numbers, 13, 13, 13. I found it after the escape. The night after version 6 disappeared from his sealed chamber, they locked down the entire compound. The security team, military guys, not rent-a-cops, swept every room with rifles drawn and flashlights cutting through the sterile darkness. But they never found him. No cameras caught his exit. No alarms were tripped. It was like he just phased through the walls, or like something pulled him out of this world entirely. We were told to stay put. I didn't. Something was drawing me deeper. I followed a strange sound, metal scraping on tile, down into the unlit lower level corridors. The sublevels weren't on the blueprints. They weren't meant to be found, but I found them. 6 floors beneath ground zero. The door wasn't locked, just rusted shut. Took me 10 minutes, and all my strength to wedge it open. What I found down there, I can't describe it without my heart turning cold even now. The room was pitch black, except for the blinking red light of an old server tower. But that wasn't what stopped me. It was the walls, covered in writing. Hundreds, maybe thousands, of phrases carved directly into the cement, like a man scraping his thoughts out with broken nails. I hear the screaming in the soil. He is still under there. They crowned me with wires and fed me lies. The Last Supper was me. Over and over, in different languages. Some I didn't recognize, some that probably don't exist anymore. And in the middle of the room, half buried in old bricks and dust, that binder. It felt warm when I touched it, like skin. It even pulsed once, I swear to you, before I opened it. Inside were medical logs, scribbled observations, notes so unhinged, so erratic. It felt like reading the diary of a man who lost his sanity trying to play God. But this wasn't God. This was something else. Version 13, the 13th clone, the one they never finished. The binder described the experiment in chilling detail. Version 13 wasn't made in a lab like the others. He was grown, literally grown, organ by organ, inside a synthetic womb developed in collaboration with a secret Catholic biotech sect operating out of Vatican City called the Sanguine Order. No digital records, no government oversight, all paper, all blood. They didn't use just one relic. They used 33. Blood-soaked thorns from the crown, splinters from the true cross, dust scraped from the floor of Golgotha. Even, allegedly, a drop of blood kept in a locked vial below the Sistine Chapel, rumored to have been hidden since the Second Crusade. They called him the Complete One, not a clone, not a copy, but an attempt at spiritual resurrection. They claimed the process could not only recreate the man, but bring his soul back. But something went wrong. The first log reads, Day 1, movement detected in the tank. No heartbeat yet, but his fingers are twitching. By day 6, he was fully formed. By day 13, he opened his eyes, and he never blinked, not once. Every log after that got more deranged, more frantic. He doesn't sleep. He watches the others through the tank glass. One of the researchers began bleeding from his eyes after looking into 13's gaze for too long. We tried to sedate him. The entire compound lost power for exactly 6 minutes and 16 seconds. We reviewed the backup cameras. For those 6 minutes, he was moving, outside the tank, smiling. Then, when the power returned, he was back inside, eyes closed, smiling wider. The logs abruptly stop after day 33. The final page was barely readable, just a few words scratched so deeply into the paper that they tore through. He knows he's not the first. He's going to bury them all. I closed the binder and ran. Didn't even think to take it with me. When I got back to the upper floors, the building was empty. Every researcher, every security guard, every test subject, gone. No signs of struggle, no bodies, no alarms, just silence. And one thing that haunts me to this day, a red stain on the glass chamber where version 6 used to sit. A perfect handprint, upside down, still warm. I tried to disappear again, took a ferry to a small town in Norway. Fake name, new passport, no phone. Didn't matter. One night, I walked into a local 7-Eleven just to grab water and snacks. Behind the counter was an old TV mounted to the ceiling, playing a local news broadcast. But it wasn't news. It was live footage. A priest screaming into the camera, crying. Behind him, a burning church. Not just any church, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, where Jesus was supposedly crucified and buried. The feed was chaotic, fuzzy, like an analog signal pulled from some old VCR. But I saw it. I swear, I saw it. A figure standing calmly in the flames. No panic, no fear. Just watching. Then the feed cut, static. Then one frame. One single, burned-in frame. Him. 13th clone. Eyes burned black. Skin cracked like molten clay. And smiling, with nails in his mouth. I fled the store, ran back to my cabin, packed what little I had. But before I could leave, I noticed something strange in the snow outside my window. Footprints, leading up to my door, barefoot, and in the snow, written with something red that hadn't frozen yet, were the words, "I remember being buried. I heard them praying while the dirt crushed my lungs. They thought I died. I just waited. So now I know the truth. They didn't kill version 13. They buried him alive, under the lab, under stone, under crosses, thinking they could seal away what they had created. They forgot one thing. He wasn't a man. Not anymore. He's not a prophet, not a messiah, not even a monster. He's the memory of pain made flesh, the residue of every sacrifice, every betrayal, every crucifixion across time, stitched together into a body that will never forget what we did. And now, he's remembering us, one by one. I haven't slept in 4 days. Every time I blink, I see him. He stands in reflections that aren't mine, whispers in voices that sound like my dead mother, shows up in TikToks, Snap stories, security cams, baby monitors. His presence is leaking into the feed. You think this story is just fiction. Check your phone. Look at your photos. Look closely. He's already there. And soon, he'll remember you too. I didn't want to know what happened in 1987, but when your sleep is a looping reel of the same black-eyed clone standing at the edge of your bed, whispering names you've never spoken aloud, you eventually give in. The nightmares had changed. They weren't dreams anymore. They were instructions. Every night, I woke up with blood under my fingernails, symbols drawn on my walls in handwriting I didn't recognize. My door would be unlocked, my sink dripping, and always, always, the same word written in condensation on my bathroom mirror. Witness. I didn't know what it meant until I tracked down Father Bellini. He was one of the Vatican's last surviving archivists. I found him living in an unmarked monastery in the hills near Siena, Italy, tucked behind a rusting gate and 2 layers of thorn bushes. The place wasn't listed anywhere. No address, no website, just coordinates hidden in the margins of one of the final pages of that blood-soaked binder I found back in the lab. The moment I stepped onto the property, the birds stopped chirping. No wind, no animals, no sounds at all. Just the distant, wet dragging of something behind a locked door in the cellar. Bellini opened the door before I could knock. He looked like he hadn't slept since the Cold War. Yellow eyes, skin sagging, mouth trembling, like it had forgotten how to speak. He didn't say hello, didn't ask who I was. He just looked me dead in the eyes and said, "He showed you the catacombs, didn't he?" The Vatican doesn't talk about 1987. There's no official record, no papers, no news articles, just a 3-second VHS glitch during a papal Easter Mass that aired live across the globe, just before the feed cut and went black for an hour. I've watched that clip hundreds of times since. You can find it if you know where to look. Buried in deep Telegram forums, traded on hard drives at abandoned data centers in Kazakhstan. You'll know you have the real one because when you play it, your screen starts bleeding red at the edges and the volume won't go down. In those 3 seconds, you'll see this. The Pope standing frozen mid-speech. The cardinals behind him, all turned away from the camera. And behind the altar, a man, naked, covered in ash, eyes open but bleeding, arms outstretched like a crucifix, and smiling. That wasn't a glitch. That was the ritual. And Bellini was there. He didn't want to tell me. He didn't even want to say the year. But after enough shaking, enough muttered prayers, enough time staring at the statue of the Virgin Mary with her face melted off from candle heat, he finally broke. And what he told me, I can't even put it into words without my hands trembling. So I'll tell you what he said, exactly as he said it, word for word. They thought if they killed him again, it would end. They thought they could trap the soul if they offered it enough blood. So they built the chamber beneath the Vatican. 33 priests, each from a different bloodline, all virgins, all orphans, all wearing white robes soaked in lamb's blood. They waited until midnight on the 13th hour of the 13th day of Lent, and they summoned him, not the clone, not the man, the soul, the memory, the witness to all suffering. They called him back into the flesh, and he came, but not the way they wanted. He brought all of it with him. Every crucifixion, every lynching, every gas chamber, every child buried in mass graves, all of it. And it screamed, not with a voice, but through the air, through the walls, through us. It screamed through me. I have not heard silence since. After that, Bellini wouldn't speak another word. He just walked to his chapel, laid down at the foot of the altar, and began bleeding from his eyes. I ran. I left him there. The next morning, I came back to check on him. He was still lying there, still alive, still bleeding, eyes wide open, staring up at nothing, and on the wall above the altar, scratched into the brick by what looked like bare fingers. Witnesses do not leave. I left anyway, and I started digging. I traced the 1987 ritual to an even older one, 1533. The Spanish Inquisition had a term for it. La sangre que habla, the blood that speaks. They believed some souls were so broken by death that their blood remained conscious, aware, listening, and if enough of it was gathered and prayed to, it would start to respond. They tried it. It worked, but not how they expected. There are woodcuts, black and white carvings from the time, showing something monstrous emerging from beneath the earth. Not a demon, not an angel, something that looks human, but with too many ribs, no mouth, holes where the eyes should be, and a spine that curves into a crown of nails. The final woodcut is just one sentence, in Latin, Ego sum memoriam crucis. I am the memory of the cross. And here's the part I haven't told anyone. After I left Italy, I booked a one-way flight to Jerusalem. I had to see it for myself. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre, where Jesus was buried, where the original blood first touched the earth. The church had been rebuilt dozens of times. Wars, fires, earthquakes. But some parts never changed. Specifically, the catacombs underneath, closed to the public, guarded by armed clergy, off limits even to local historians. I bribed my way in. 2 guards, $500 American, A flashlight. I didn't bring a camera. Didn't want to risk it recording what I saw. I went down alone. The stone steps felt wrong beneath my feet, like walking over sleeping bodies. The air got colder with every step, but not dead cold. Breathing cold. Alive. Thick. Wet. And the deeper I went, the more I saw the symbols, carved into every surface. Not crosses. Eyes. Hundreds of them. Watching. Crying. Closed. Until the final door. Iron. Bolted. Bent. I didn't open it. It opened for me. The room was silent. No sounds. No wind. No breath. And then I saw it. A pit. Perfectly circular. 20 feet across. Filled with blood. Not red. Black. It wasn't reflective. It absorbed light. The flashlight died in my hand. My phone screen cracked on its own. My mouth tasted iron, and my nose began to bleed. And from that pit, something began to rise. Not a body, not a shape, a sensation. Pain. Deep. Historic. Collective. The agony of every betrayal. Every death. Every sacrifice. All at once. I didn't scream, because it entered my throat before I could. I felt him. Not the clone. Not the man we tried to remake, but the one they buried. The 13th. And he whispered, not in my ear, in my bones. I remember the nails. I remember your face. And I remember who watched, who stood silent, who called it salvation. I woke up in a hospital in Tel Aviv. They said I was found unconscious in a mosque 40 miles away. No ID, no money, just dried blood under my eyes and a note sewn into my shirt. He forgives, but I do not. I'm writing this now from a hostel with no Wi-Fi. I'll upload this when I find signal. But please, if you're reading this, don't look for him. He isn't hiding anymore. He doesn't need to. Because the Vatican failed. The ritual failed. And the witness? He's not waiting. He's already among us. There's no moral to this story. There's no what I learned. No satisfying closure. No final scream that wraps this all up in a neat little campfire tale you can laugh off with your friends while scrolling TikTok at 2 a.m. with the lights off. This isn't a story. This is a warning. And by the time you're finished reading this, you won't remember how you found it. But he will, because the resurrection isn't coming. It already happened. It started with the windows. Stained glass, Vatican-made, priceless religious art, passed down and guarded since the 1600s. Every cathedral across Europe had them, identical patterns, identical designs, and I never thought to look at them twice, until the blood started dripping from one in Seville, Spain. It happened during a wedding. The church was packed, hundreds of people watching the bride walk down the aisle, smiling, unaware that above them, the light hitting the stained glass was no longer sunlight. It had turned red. One by one, each pane of glass started to melt. No heat, no fire alarms, just melting, like ice under breath, until the final image revealed itself. Not Jesus, not Mary, not saints or angels, but him, the 13th. His eyes black voids, his teeth stitched shut with thorns, arms outstretched, and in his chest, a hollow where the heart had been replaced with a clock, not a painted one, a real mechanical clock, ticking. It struck one at the exact moment the bride reached the altar, and every person inside the church began to bleed from their eyes. That was the first one. Now they're happening all over. Paris, Montreal, Sao Paulo, Manila. Every church with that same pattern. Bleeding windows, ticking hearts, mass seizures. The Vatican issued no statement. The Pope disappeared from public view 24 hours later. And a week after that, the congregation appeared. I didn't think they were real. until they found me. I was in an abandoned motel off the A9 highway in Bavaria, Germany. The windows were taped shut, mirrors broken, lights unplugged. I hadn't seen another human being in 12 days. Then they arrived. They didn't knock. They just entered. 5 of them, wearing old choir robes, blackened at the sleeves, mouths sewn shut with golden thread, each one holding a candle that didn't flicker. Their eyes were black, not like the absence of color, but like a presence, like looking into something that had teeth. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. They didn't speak. They just placed something on the ground in front of me. A box, old wood, no nails, no hinges, just shut. One of them lifted the lid, and inside, my face, but not a photo, not a reflection. My actual face, skin peeled clean, eyes wide open, lips smiling, and carved into the forehead the words, "You watched." Then the box closed itself, and when I looked up, they were gone. It took me 3 days to realize what it meant. The congregation are not followers. They're messengers. They don't worship the 13th. They serve the memory. They don't exist to spread his name. They exist to remind us what we allowed. Every time we looked the other way, every time we called it sacrifice or martyrdom or God's will, every crucifixion, every execution, every stolen breath called holy, we didn't clone Jesus to worship him. We cloned him to control him, to own him, to package him for profit, to strip his trauma into marketable miracles. And now, the trauma is remembering us. The clock in the windows wasn't symbolic. It was a countdown. The final pain appeared last night in a cathedral in Rome. The clock struck 13, and the sky opened, not with fire, not with angels, with faces, billions of them, layered across the clouds like a canvas of screams, all identical, all versions of him, from every failed experiment, every dumped body, every discarded clone we tried to forget, all of them watching and smiling, not because they forgave us, but because we finally remembered. This morning, the rivers turned black, not blood, not oil, something older, sticky, thick, alive. It bubbles when you whisper, it laughs when you cry. I saw it swallow a train in Prague. No survivors, just a single torn out tongue left on the tracks, carved with the words, "Witnesses must not speak." They tried to hide it. The world governments, the churches, the influencers, they flooded social media with filters and dance trends and fake wars and celebrity deaths. But the clock can't be unfollowed. It appears on every phone now, every device, every watch. It doesn't tick, it breathes. Every second is a gasp. Every minute, a prayer gone unanswered. And when it strikes 0, the final resurrection begins. But not of him, of us. We are not the chosen. We are the remembered. And that's worse. We are the scars of the crucifixion, walking on 2 legs, pretending to be innocent. And now the body is calling us home. The sky is cracking. The ground is opening. And underneath it all is a choir of mouths, singing in a voice that isn't sound, but consequence. I'm writing this from beneath a collapsed monastery. The last survivors hanged themselves yesterday. The candles went out last night. And for the first time in centuries, there is no silence, just the sound of bones breaking in reverse. He's not coming. He never left. And now, we remember. The screen you're reading this on isn't safe. The time at the top corner isn't real. And the light in your room is not your own. Close your eyes. Count to 13. If he hasn't come for you yet, he will, because you watched. and you remembered, and now you belong to the resurrection. I joined a dark web experiment that let me die and come back. 2 days later, a star appeared, and then the meteor hit. Alright, I'm not really sure where to start with this, but I guess I'll start here. Don't try to find the site I'm about to tell you about. I don't care if you're bored, high, or just curious. I'm writing this because I think I did something irreversible, and I don't know how much time I have left. Also, for context, I'm not some basement dweller living in a hoodie with 5 monitors and a mask on. I'm just a dude. I'm 22, work at a Starbucks inside a Target in Columbus, Ohio. Live alone, chill apartment, got LED lights in the kitchen like I'm in a cyberpunk TikTok, you know. I game a bit, scroll Reddit way too much, and yeah, I watch creepy stuff on YouTube before bed. You've probably heard of Here's My Story, Llama Arts, and Nexpo, that kind of vibe. So yeah, this story starts 2 weeks ago. It was a Thursday night, like 1 a.m. I had work in the morning, but you know how it is. I was scrolling Instagram Reels, somehow ended up deep into the algorithm of urban legends and conspiracy edits. That kind of top 5 TikToks you should never watch at 3 a.m. content, with the sped up audio and jump cuts. Then suddenly, one reel ends and another starts. But this one is different. It's not a meme or an edit. It's like raw footage, shaky camera, a guy in a hoodie standing in front of what looks like a vending machine in the middle of nowhere. The caption says, "I died for 3 minutes, came back, saw something." That's it. No tags, no music, no comments. Weird, but I scroll past it. Then a few minutes later, I swear on everything, it pops up again. Same video. This time, the screen glitches for half a second, and then there's a link. Now, before you say, "Bro, why would you click a random link from a reel?" Let me explain. It didn't open a browser or anything. It copied a string of characters to my clipboard, like an invite code, almost like a Discord link, but with no app tied to it. I don't know what made me do it. I've done dumb stuff before, sure. Joined shady group chats, pirated games, once even bought a fake PlayStation from a dude on OfferUp who met me behind a McDonald's. But this felt different. I pasted it into my notes app just to look at it. 47X, dieback 369, .NET access through Tor only. I froze. I'd heard of Tor before, the Onion browser, deep web stuff, but I'd never actually used it. So like any good dumbass, I did the one thing you're not supposed to do. I googled how to install Tor. Took me about 15 minutes, a few tutorials, and a sketchy looking download, but eventually I had the browser open. Black screen, green text. Felt like I was in a hacker movie from 2002. I typed in the link, and it opened. No warning, no age verification, no captcha, just a white screen with black text. "Welcome to the dieback protocol. You have been chosen. You may exit at any time before phase 1. Participation is irreversible after that." There were 2 buttons, enter and leave. Guess which one I clicked? The screen went black for like 10 seconds. I thought maybe my Wi-Fi died. Then a loading bar appeared at the bottom, like something was downloading. Then a new page. Upload a picture of yourself. No filters, no edits, no masks. I hesitated, but there was a timer now, counting down from 60. It felt like a game, like something RG YouTubers would break down in videos with red circles and arrows. So I did it. Snapped a picture of my face using my webcam. Uploaded. The page flickered. Then something even weirder happened. It showed me a live feed of my apartment from the corner, like a surveillance camera that didn't exist. My heart dropped. I physically got up and looked around, checking behind my monitor, my vents, my smoke detector. I even checked the closet. Nothing. Then another line appeared. Confirmed. We are watching. I should have stopped, closed the laptop, burned it. But instead, I just stared at the screen as more text appeared. Phase 1 will begin in 72 hours. Prepare to die. Then the screen cut to black again. I didn't sleep that night. Every little creak, every car outside my window made me jump. I kept thinking, they hacked my webcam. They probably got some spyware on my system. The next morning at work, I was a wreck. I tried to tell my coworker Marcus about it, just casually like, "Yo bro, have you ever been on the deep web?" But he just laughed and said, "What? Like for hitmen and organs?" That's the thing. The dark web has become this meme. People joke about it like it's not real. But let me tell you, there are corners of the internet that make you feel like you shouldn't even be breathing near them. That night, things got worse. When I got home, my front door was unlocked. I never leave it unlocked. Ever. I walked inside with a kitchen knife in my hoodie pocket, just in case. Nothing looked stolen. But when I got to my bedroom, I saw something that made my stomach twist. On my pillow was a note. Plain white paper, no handwriting. Just typed text. "You'll thank us when you come back." And taped to the back of it was a Starbucks gift card. I work at Starbucks. I checked the balance later. It had $4.47. The same number that started the invite link. 47XDIEBACK 369. I didn't sleep the next night either. I unplugged all my electronics, even put duct tape over my webcam, tried calling the cops, but didn't really know what to report. "Hey officer, someone may have put a gift card on my pillow and hacked my soul off the internet." 3 days passed. I thought maybe it was over, just some elaborate prank. I even tried deleting the Tor browser, thought maybe I dodged a bullet. But then Sunday came. That was the day I died, and came back. All right, no more stalling. This part is hard to write, not because I don't remember it, but because I remember every single second too clearly. And it's not something I ever wanted to relive, even in words. But if I don't put this out there, someone else is going to click that link. And if you think this is all some internet scary story, I promise you, you are not ready for what really happens after phase 1. It was Sunday night, exactly 72 hours after I clicked enter. I was watching YouTube, trying to drown out my anxiety with a Luna Storytime and some analog horror playlists. Lights off, LED strip glowing purple under my bed. I had almost convinced myself that it was all a sick prank or an ARG that never went viral. Just some edgy hacker with too much time. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. No caller ID. One text. That's all it said. It's time. A second later, my laptop screen lit up by itself. I hadn't even touched it. And the Tor browser, which I had uninstalled, was open again. But it wasn't a browser anymore. It was a live stream. No buttons, no title. Just a camera pointed at what looked like the inside of a hospital operating room. Cold metal walls, dim overhead light, one gurney in the center. Empty. Then a sound kicked in. Breathing. My breathing. It was like the mic was inside my throat. I could hear my heartbeat too. Not like a regular thump thump. No, like it was inside my goddamn brain. Like when you plug headphones in and they're static, but instead it's your own body falling apart. I stood up from my bed and fell straight to the floor, like a puppet whose strings got cut. Every muscle just shut off at once. I couldn't move, couldn't scream, couldn't blink. My mouth was open, drooling. My tongue felt like rubber. I remember trying to bite it off, to force myself to feel something, but all I felt was a cold wave roll through my bones. I don't know how long I was paralyzed. The screen changed again. This time, it was my face, but not through the webcam. It was a live thermal scan, like a military-style heat map, heart rate monitor, brainwaves, like something from a Black Mirror episode if the director had a grudge against God. And above it all, text started scrolling across the screen. Phase 1, successful neural lockdown, initiating NDE process. I didn't know what NDE meant at the time. I know now. Near-death experience. The room I was in, my own bedroom, started peeling away. I'm not trying to be poetic. I mean the literal walls peeled, like paint melting in reverse. My ceiling stretched upward like rubber, and suddenly I was falling, straight through my own bed. Free fall, pitch black, nothing to grab onto, no wind, no sound, no light. Then I hit something, but it wasn't solid. It was me. I hit myself. It's the only way I can describe it. I landed inside a version of my own body that wasn't mine. I opened my eyes and was standing in the middle of a crowd. No idea where. Somewhere massive, like a stadium, but without the seats. Everything was made of static. People were made of static. Thousands of them. Buzzing, twitching, like corrupted TV channels walking around. Their faces, they had no mouths, but I could still hear them screaming. One of them turned to me, got right in my face. It didn't speak, not with a voice. It just stared with empty sockets and fed me something. Not food, not words. It fed me memories, but they weren't mine. I saw a woman drown in a bathtub while smiling. I saw a man eating his own hands in front of a broken mirror. I saw a group of kids, maybe 10 years old, standing around a pile of bones, clapping. And every time I blinked, I was somewhere else. A burning carnival, an empty school with lockers made of meat, a Starbucks with no customers, no staff, just mannequins twitching at the register while music played backward. I kept screaming. I thought I was, but I couldn't make a sound until I did, and that's when I realized I wasn't alone in my own body anymore. There was something else inside me, clawing at my ribcage from the inside. I could feel it breathing against my lungs, not with them, against them, like it wanted to drown me in my own air. Then the worst part. Something whispered, not in my ear, but under my skin. You died. You're property now. I woke up in a room I didn't recognize. Not my apartment, not a hospital. This place was too clean. No windows, no light source. But everything was lit anyway. The bed was made of glass. The floor was water, but solid. The ceiling dripped ink that evaporated before hitting the ground. I was hooked up to something. Wires in my arms, a tube in my spine, a monitor with my name on it, but not my name. Subject, 369, post-life return initiated. A screen turned on in front of me. This time, it wasn't text. It was a face. Mine. Except it wasn't me anymore. It smiled with teeth that were too long. Then it said, in a voice that sounded like mine, but in reverse, "You're not coming back." "I am." The screen shut off. Then I blacked out again. When I opened my eyes, I was back in my room. Same LED lights, same walls. My laptop was closed. Phone was dead. It was Monday morning, but something was wrong. I tried to stand. My legs were fine. I could move again. I checked the mirror, and I swear, my reflection blinked half a second before I did. There was a knock at the door. 3 times. I froze. I checked the peephole. No one was there. Another knock. But this time, it came from inside the apartment, from inside the closet. I grabbed my phone, still dead, and slowly walked over, opened it. Empty. But on the floor was a single USB flash drive, wrapped in skin-colored tape. Not even joking. Written on it in Sharpie, "Watch me die, then watch yourself." I plugged it into an old Chromebook I had under my bed. No Wi-Fi, just local access. It opened one folder. Inside, one video file. No title, just a timestamp. I clicked play, and I watched a recording of myself. Last night, lying in bed, motionless, drooling, twitching. The footage was from an angle that didn't exist in my room. High, like from the ceiling, as if someone was floating above me. At exactly 3:33 a.m., I flatlined. Heart stopped. Body still. For 6 minutes and 29 seconds. Then, at 3:39 a.m., my eyes opened, and I stared directly at the camera. The footage ended. I pulled the drive out, smashed it with a hammer, flushed it down the toilet, deleted everything. But it doesn't matter, because I'm not the only one who came back. I see things now, in the corners of rooms, in reflections that lag behind, in background noise that whispers names I've never said out loud. Yesterday at work, I rang up a woman for a venti iced latte. She looked up at me and said, "Welcome back, subject 369. I never told her my name. And this morning, the sky was different. There's a star, right above Columbus. Bright. Wrong. Too close. No one's talking about it. Not on Twitter. Not on TikTok. Not even the news. But I know what it means. The others are coming, and they're not wearing human skin like I am. Not yet. Let me tell you something they don't warn you about when you die and come back. Your body is no longer yours. They don't put that in any Reddit thread or deep web documentary. There's no WikiHow on what to do when you wake up from death and something else is blinking behind your eyes. I want to say I'm still human, but I don't think that word applies to me anymore. Not entirely. And if what I saw last night was real, then we are all screwed. And I'm not saying that like, haha, internet apocalypse screwed. I mean scrub your eyes with bleach, throw your family in the car and run kind of screwed. It started yesterday around 11 p.m. I was lying in bed, trying to sleep, but my heart wouldn't stop racing. Not panic, not fear, excitement. Like something in me was buzzing, like something was waking up. I got up and went to the bathroom to splash water on my face. That's when I noticed it. Not a shadow, not some glitch in the mirror. My reflection was breathing out when I was breathing in. No lag this time. It wasn't delayed. It was doing the opposite of what I was doing. I froze. My chest stopped moving. So did the thing in the mirror. We stared at each other. Same face. Same eyes. Then it smiled. I didn't. It smiled with my teeth. And that's when it slammed its head against the glass. The actual mirror didn't break, but I heard it. The impact in my skull. like I was on both sides of the glass at once. I fell backwards, cracked my elbow on the sink, stared at the mirror again. Nothing. Just me. Regular, terrified, bleeding me. I didn't sleep after that. I spent the next day trying to act normal. Went to work, made lattes, cleaned the milk frother, tried not to look anyone in the eyes. But every time I blinked, I felt something behind them, like a blink within my blink, a second eyelid deeper than flesh. Around 3:12 p.m., I was in the back room restocking cups when Marcus, my coworker, walked in, asked if I was good, said I looked pale. I said, "Yeah, just tired." He half laughed and said, "You've been tired since Thursday, bro." Then he paused, tilted his head, and said, "You didn't blink just now." I didn't understand what he meant until I realized I hadn't. Not in the last few minutes. Not once. I touched my eyes. They weren't dry. They were moist. But I hadn't blinked. The moisture wasn't mine. I clocked out early. Told the manager I was sick. When I got back to my apartment, the power was out. That shouldn't be weird, but my building is new. Like luxury new. Everything's powered underground. It doesn't just go out. But my lights were dead. Fridge, off. TV, static. Like full-on The Ring static, even though nothing was plugged into it. I lit a candle and tried to calm myself. Then I noticed something I still can't explain. All the shadows in the room were facing the wrong way. The candle was on my desk. The shadows should have been cast behind things, but instead, the shadows leaned toward the light, like they wanted to touch it. I grabbed my phone, still dead, even though I charged it at work. I was about to leave the apartment, just go walk to a Starbucks or something, when I heard a noise that nearly made me vomit. Not a bang, not a scream, a wet, stretching sound, like rubber being peeled off skin. I turned toward the closet, that goddamn closet, and this time it wasn't empty. Something was stepping out of the wall, not the door, the actual wall. It was me, but not. Same hoodie, same face, but the arms were too long, the neck was bent wrong, the eyes were smooth, like polished marble, no pupils, no whites, just glossy black orbs that shimmered when it moved. Its mouth didn't open, it unzipped, like a zipper down its face. Inside was teeth, too many teeth, way too many, all curved inward, like they were built to hold something in, not chew. It walked toward me. I couldn't move, not fear, not shock, obedience, like I was a dog hearing its master's voice. It stopped right in front of me, tilted its head, and reached into its own mouth. I swear this happened. It pulled out a piece of my skin, my actual skin, my forearm, tattoo and all. I looked down at my real arm and saw a perfect oval-shaped piece missing, like it had been scooped out with surgical precision. No blood, no pain, just absence. It handed me the piece, and then it whispered in my voice, "You are just one of us wearing the mask longest." Then it melted into the floor, literally sank into the boards like oil, left nothing behind except the skin fragment, which began to dry up in my hands like paper, crumbling into ash. I didn't scream, I didn't cry. I laughed, and it wasn't me doing it. I passed out at some point, woke up in my bed, sunlight outside, phone at 99%, power restored, TV off. But on my nightstand was something that didn't belong there. A photo, an actual Polaroid photo, of me, as a corpse, in a morgue. The tag on my toe said, "Identified, subject 369, completed." The timestamp, tomorrow's date. And that's when I heard the sound again, the one from the video, my own flat line. but this time it was coming from the hallway outside my door. I opened the door slowly, peered out into the hallway. Every door in my apartment complex was wide open. Every single one. Not kicked in, not broken, just unlocked and swinging open. I walked down the hall, no sounds, until I reached the stairwell, and I saw every single person in my building standing in the stairwell, in total silence, looking up, all of them, like mannequins dressed as neighbors. Some I recognized, some I didn't. All of them smiling, none of them blinking. Then, in perfect unison, they raised their hands and pointed up. I looked up and saw it, the star. But it wasn't a star anymore. It was a hole in the sky, circular, spinning like a hurricane. And behind it, there were things watching us. Not angels, not aliens, versions of us. Thousands of versions of ourselves, stacked and layered and screaming through smiles, trapped in the sky like reflections on glass. And the hole was getting wider. That was last night. Today I woke up and there was a countdown on my phone, burned into the screen like a permanent screensaver. Phase 2, 23, 44, 10 remaining. I don't know what Phase 2 is, but I think it's when the others come through. They've already started replacing people. I see it now. The guy who sells me coffee across the street. Same face, different laugh. The girl at the grocery store who never breaks eye contact. She wasn't blinking either. I don't think I survived death. I think I became a corridor, and something is still walking through me. I can't feel pain anymore. Not like a superpower, not like adrenaline or shock. I mean, I literally cannot feel pain. Not cold, not heat, not cuts. Last night, I stabbed my palm with a steak knife just to see if I could still bleed. I bled, but it came out wrong. It was thick, dark, sticky, and it moved slow, like it didn't want to leave. I watched a bead of it roll down my arm and change direction mid-drip. It crawled back up. That's when I knew for sure. Whatever came back inside me when I died isn't human. And now, Phase 2 has started. 23, 44, 10. That was the countdown I mentioned at the end of part 3. It hit 0 at exactly 3 a.m. this morning. No alarms, no screams, just a sound. A long, low, stomach-turning frequency. It didn't come from my phone or the TV or outside. It came from inside my skull, like my bones were vibrating, like someone had struck a tuning fork made of my spine. I blacked out again, but not the kind of blackout where you wake up on the floor. Number. This time, I woke up inside my own skin, like I was tucked inside myself, underneath my real body, seeing through my eyes like windows. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't breathe on my own. Something else was driving me. I watched, helpless, as I stood up, walked out the front door into the night. The world looked different now, like a video game glitching out. Buildings pulsed, stoplights blinked in random colors, trees grew backwards, and the people, God, they were all standing in the streets, perfect rows, silent. Each one had a line of black fluid leaking from their eyes, running straight down their cheeks like a permanent tear. Some of them were missing their mouths. Others had too many. One guy, swear on everything, had a mouth on his neck, and it was whispering to itself, like a separate person, moving its tongue in slow circles, chewing nothing. I turned the corner and saw something I haven't stopped shaking from. A school bus. Empty, except for one kid. Just one. She was sitting in the back. Blonde pigtails, pink jacket. Couldn't have been more than 7. But when she looked at me, her eyes weren't human. They were glass, reflective, like a security mirror. And in them, I saw something I'll never unsee. Myself. Dead. Not just a body. Not just a reflection. A live feed of me being torn apart, piece by piece. I blinked, and her mouth opened. She whispered one word. Swallow. Then the bus filled up, instantly, with identical versions of her. The windows turned black, the wheels melted, and the bus sank into the road like quicksand. Gone. No splash. No sound. My body kept walking. I couldn't stop it. The streetlights turned red and stayed red, painting everything in hell light. And up in the sky, right where that fake star was, something had opened. A crack. A wound. Inside it, something huge moved. Something that didn't have a shape. Just motion. Like a city collapsing in on itself. Like tendons made of thunder. And as I stared up, I realized everyone else was doing the same. All of them. Even the animals. There was a dog across the street, sitting still on the sidewalk, looking straight up, its jaw hanging wide open. It wasn't panting. It was smiling. I finally wrestled control back around 4:17 a.m. I collapsed into an alley behind a 24-hour McDonald's near campus. I was soaked in something that looked like water but smelled like old teeth. My hands were covered in what I thought was mud, but when I rubbed them together, it flaked. Skin. Not mine. Someone else's. I ran home, barefoot. Don't even remember losing my shoes. My door was wide open when I got back, but the inside of my apartment had changed. Not visually, just the feeling, the weight of it. It felt like someone had rearranged the air molecules, like my lungs were sinking when I breathed in. My fridge was full of meat, not labeled, not packaged, just slabs, raw, pulsing like they were still alive. My bathroom mirror was gone, just not there anymore, replaced with a sheet of fogged up glass, like a shower wall. But on the other side of the fog, I could see my own shape, moving, even when I wasn't. I wrote on the fog with my finger. What are you? The reflection wrote back. Next. Then I got a knock at the door. 3 knocks. I checked the peephole. Empty hallway. Then 3 more knocks. From behind me. I turned around slowly and saw nothing. But my phone buzzed. Not a notification, not a call. Just a single video file. No sender. File name. eulogy.fazetwo.move. I played it. It was footage of me. In a suit. Standing at a podium. Giving a eulogy. But the audience was me. Rows and rows of me. All dead. Some with their eyes gouged out. Some missing limbs. Some with their skulls opened like flowers. All of them staring up at me, unmoving. And I was speaking. But the audio was reversed. So I reversed it back. This is what I said. We thank Subject 369 for volunteering his body to the corridor. He will be remembered by the memories we choose to leave behind. Phase 2 is successful. The meteor will strike when he accepts. Then the others may wear him. I don't know what accepts means, but I think it's already happening. I found bruises on my ribs this morning, shaped like fingers. On the inside, like something was gripping me from within, trying to turn me inside out. I tried to scream, but nothing came out. Then my mouth opened anyway, and I heard a different voice come out of me. Not mine, not human. It just said, one more phase. If you're reading this, don't pray for me. Pray that the sky stays closed, because if it opens again, they won't need my body anymore. They'll take yours. I don't even know if I'm writing this anymore. I can feel the keys under my fingers, but the words aren't mine. They're borrowed, like someone's threading a needle through my tendons and making me type. I hear static every time I finish a sentence. A low click behind the wall, a whisper just above my shoulder, like someone is reading this over my shoulder before you do. And if you're reading this, you're too late. The meteor already hit, but it wasn't a rock. It wasn't even from space. It was a seed, and it didn't crash. It planted itself into the center of downtown Columbus, Ohio, like a corkscrew spinning into the earth. It came silently. At exactly 4:44 a.m. last night, I was already awake when it happened. My skin had been peeling itself off in long gray ribbons for hours. I didn't even notice at first. It didn't hurt. It just sloughed off, calmly, like a snake undressing for something important, something sacred, something final. When I looked in the mirror, I saw muscle and bone, twitching like they just remembered what movement was. And then the sky opened, not with light, not with fire, with teeth. Imagine a mouth stretching from horizon to horizon. No lips, just gums and bone, and a sound that wasn't a roar. It was an agreement. A cosmic yes from something that finally got tired of watching from behind the stars. And from that mouth, the seed dropped. It wasn't a meteor. It was a vessel, a pulsating skin-covered egg that twisted midair as it fell. Not fast, not slow, just deliberately, like it knew where it was going. It hit the city center, right in front of the Ohio State House. Didn't explode, didn't bounce. It sank, right into the pavement, like the ground wanted to eat it. And then things got worse. Phase 3. I don't know if it was triggered by the seed, or if it was already scheduled, but every screen in the city turned on, even the broken ones, even the ones that hadn't been plugged in for years. TVs, phones, billboards, gas station pumps, self-checkout machines at Kroger. All of them displayed the same message. Upload complete. Host accepted. Now we fill the rest. People dropped to the ground in waves, not like fainting, more like their bodies finally realized they were too full. Some of them split open at the jaw. Some began to vomit static, like their insides had been replaced with data, corrupted, twitching, digitized sludge that hissed and buzzed when it touched the ground. One guy in front of me, middle-aged, glasses, wedding ring, just bent over and started pulling his own spine out of his mouth. And the worst part, he looked relieved. I ran. I didn't know where. Just somewhere away from screens, from reflections, from sound. But every street was watching. The cracks in the sidewalk pulsed like veins. The trees began to rot inward. The birds in the sky flew in perfect spirals, then froze in midair like a paused video, and then burst, all of them, raining down feathers, beaks, and eyes that still blinked for several seconds after hitting the ground. I made it to an old church on Oak Street, boarded up, forgotten, no power, no tech, just stone and silence. I thought I was safe for maybe 5 minutes. Then I heard singing, not from the outside, from the walls. 100 voices, all in perfect harmony, singing in reverse, like a lullaby from a god who speaks backwards. I tried to leave. The door wasn't locked, but it led somewhere else. I stepped out, and I was no longer in Columbus. No city, no street, just a black field, stretching out forever. Sky above me, glowing blood red, stars spinning, like they were trying to escape the universe. And standing in front of me was a man, except it wasn't a man. It was wearing skin like a costume. My skin, the old one, the one I peeled off hours ago. It waved at me with my hand, smiled with my teeth, and said, "You're not inside your body anymore. Your body is inside you." Then it opened its chest, and inside was me, still alive, still breathing, staring back up at myself, like a fetus inside a reflection. I tried to scream. Nothing. Then everything around me shattered like glass. I woke up in my bed again. It was morning. Sky was blue. Birds were chirping. Everything looked normal. No blood. No ash. No corpses. My phone was on the nightstand. Battery at 100%. One notification from an app I don't remember installing. Icon was just a black square. Notification said, "Welcome back, subject 370. That number. I was subject 369 before. Now I'm 370. That means someone else joined. Someone else is going through this right now. Maybe you. Maybe your friend who went offline last night. Maybe the stranger reading this thinking, damn creepy story, bro. It's not a story. It's a virus. Not one that lives in code. One that lives in attention. You looked. You clicked. You watched the mouth open. And now it's opening for you. I can feel myself splitting again. Not metaphorically. Literally. My ribcage is creaking. Like there's something inside me that doesn't want to stay in me anymore. It wants out. And I'm starting to want it out too. Not because I'm scared, because I'm curious, because whatever's been growing in me since I died, it knows something I don't. Something older than thought. Something that used to be God before God stopped watching. If you've made it this far, you have one choice. Don't search for the link. Don't type anything. Don't click next. Just forget this ever happened. But if you're like me, if something inside you is already smiling, then it's too late. We're the corridor now, and the seed is growing. I helped the Russians build a dark web device to open the gates of hell. They said it would win World War III. Yo, okay. I never thought I'd be posting something like this here, but after everything that happened, I just need to get this off my chest before I completely lose my mind. So yeah, call me crazy, call me paranoid, whatever. I don't even care anymore. But this story is 100% real. No edits, no fake names, no embellishments. What you're about to read actually happened to me. And if you're smart, you'll never go looking for the things I found. It all started about a year ago, back in 2024, during that weird time when everyone was bored, burnt out, and just aimlessly scrolling through TikTok and Reddit at like 3 a.m. every night. You know that feeling when you've watched so many conspiracy theory videos that even normal stuff starts to feel fake. That's where I was mentally. I had just graduated from college, bachelor's in computer science, minor in digital systems. Basically, I was a nerd with a lot of free time, an unhealthy Reddit habit, and a stupid obsession with deep web rabbit holes. I know, dumb, but I was one of those people who thought they were invincible behind a VPN. Anyway, this one night, I was browsing this weird tech subreddit called r/sub/netvolt. It's been wiped now, so don't bother looking. It was mostly people talking about obscure hardware mods, building retro PC rigs, dumpster diving for old tech, stuff like that. But someone posted this thread titled, Russian Cold War server, uplink discovered in Iceland. No record exists anywhere. Okay, clickbait as hell, but I was bored and curious. The guy had posted photos of this rusted out server rack buried halfway in snow, apparently in some abandoned NATO listening station outside of Reykjavik. You could see these thick, almost bone-like fiber cables stretching off into the darkness like tentacles. I thought it was fake at first, until I noticed something in the background of one photo. This metal crate with the Soviet emblem on it, but over it was a newer symbol, one that looked like an infinity sign made of barbed wire. I commented on the post like, "Yo, where'd you find this? Looks insane." And then a few hours later, I got a DM from a user named sever.ev0. The message just said, "You seem interested. You know how to run legacy code?" Now, I should have stopped there. Any normal person would have. But you gotta understand, this dude had uploaded proof, screenshots of encrypted scripts, terminal logs, and even something that looked like a bootloader for a Soviet-era AI project called Chronicles 9. I replied, "Yeah, I'm decent. What is this for?" He said, "Need help decrypting protocols from the original Kupaysk black site. This is bigger than just Cold War tech. It's pre-KGB. You help me run it. We make history." At this point, I thought it was some ARG or crypto puzzle thing. I was in deep with this kind of content. Like I was watching Nexpo, Nightmind, Here's My Story, and all those animated horror channels daily. This felt like one of those stories, only I was now inside it. We moved over to Signal, then to Proton. He gave me access to a sandboxed server hosted off a backdoor Russian ISP that was clearly not publicly listed. Once I was in, it looked like DOS from the 80s. I'm talking full-on green text on black, no GUI, nothing modern. Then he uploaded the file. It was called gate.exe in Cyrillic, but translated directly to gate. I didn't even want to run it, but he insisted we'd run it in a container and that it couldn't escape the VM. So I launched it, expecting some Soviet propaganda reel or maybe some weird BBS artifact. Instead, the screen flickered, and this tone played. I don't even know how to describe it. It wasn't just sound. It felt alive, like something was reaching into the audio. I felt my whole room go cold. I'm not kidding. My Alexa in the corner suddenly glitched and said, "I didn't understand that," and then shut off. My lights flickered. The fans on my PC spun down and back up violently, and I swear I heard something moving under my bed. On screen, just one line appeared. Key accepted. Satellite uplink established. Awaiting blood authentication. I paused. Blood authentication. I typed. "What does that mean?" into our Signal chat. He replied, "It's real. They used it in Siberia. Remote access to open Zoloto door. Need sample. Will send kit." Next day, and I'm not kidding, a FedEx envelope arrives. No return address. Inside is a sealed Russian medical kit, still labeled in faded military Cyrillic, and a USB stick with a port designed to read biometric samples. I should have burned it all right there. Instead, I bled onto the sample strip and inserted the USB into my junk laptop. The second I did, my laptop fried. Smoke, a burnt smell, the whole thing bricked. That night, my doorbell rang at 3:09 a.m. I live alone. Check the cam. No one there. But standing at the very edge of the driveway, barely visible on the ring footage, was a man in full Cold War Russian military gear, standing completely still. No movement. Just watching. I went to the police. I showed them the footage. They laughed, said it was probably a prank or a Halloween costume. It was July. After that, I blocked sever.ev0, tried to forget about it. Then 3 weeks ago, I got an email, no sender, just a subject line that said, "You opened the door. Now, finish what you started." Attached were live satellite images of my apartment building and one final audio file. I opened it, and that same tone played again. Only this time, I could hear whispering underneath, not in Russian, not in any language I knew. It sounded like something trying to speak through static. And then my phone vibrated. I got a notification from Instagram. A brand new account had tagged me in a story. It was a video, just me, sleeping, taken from inside my room. You ever see your own face from an angle that's physically impossible? That's how this part started. I was sitting at my kitchen table, mind completely blank, trying to process how someone had taken a video of me sleeping from inside my locked room and tagged me in it on Instagram like it was just a casual story post. The account was called @ZV05Kolokol, and the profile pic was just a red circle. No posts, no followers, no bio, but it was following one account, mine. I clicked the video again. I watched myself in bed, barely moving, but it was the way the camera moved that freaked me out. It wasn't handheld. It was slow, mechanical, like it was mounted on a rail or ceiling track. And then, just at the end of the video, right before it cut off, I saw something crawl into the bottom corner of the frame. Not walk, not step, crawl. It was humanoid, but thin, with these long, twitchy limbs, like they were bending the wrong way. The skin looked pale grayish, but almost blurry, like it was glitching in and out. And the weirdest part? It was dragging something heavy, something wet. The video ended with this sharp clicking noise, like a Geiger counter going off, and then just black. I tried reporting the account, but Instagram kept glitching and crashing every time I clicked report. I checked the story again. It was gone, like it was never posted, but I knew what I saw. And then my Alexa lit up again. No one had said anything, but the light just glowed blue for a few seconds. Then she said, "Welcome back, Operator Kolokol." I didn't touch that thing again. I spent the next 48 hours sleeping with the lights on, knife under my pillow. I set up a second lock on my bedroom door, zip-tied it from the inside, even jammed a broom under the handle like I was in some apocalypse bunker. I wasn't taking chances, but that second night, something still got in. At 2:14 a.m. exactly, I was woken up by a knock, not on my door, from inside my closet. Just 3 slow, methodical knocks, like knuckles on wood. Tap, tap, tap. I couldn't even breathe. I stayed completely still, clutching the knife like a kid with a teddy bear. My phone was charging across the room, out of reach, and for the first time in my life, I felt like prey. Then the knock stopped. Silence. And then, I swear I heard it breathing, just on the other side of the closet door, like some wet, wheezing inhale. And then something whispered, "He still lives." It wasn't a question. It was like disappointment. That was the first time I ever pissed myself from fear. I'm not even ashamed. But the worst part? When I finally found the courage to open the closet, nothing was there, except one thing. Lying on the closet floor, in the exact spot I kept my old childhood storage bin, was a photo, printed, glossy, and slightly curled at the edges like it had been burned. It was me, only way younger, maybe 8 or 9, sitting in the exact same spot in my room, on the same bed. But I had no memory of this picture being taken. I looked at my own face in the photo, and my eyes, they weren't right. They were too dark, like they'd been drawn on with a marker. And in the corner of the photo, standing behind the younger me, was that same tall, bent thing from the Instagram story. Its eyes were completely black, but not like hollow. They were moving, like TV static inside a skull. And below it, scribbled in shaky handwriting, they brought it back. I left my apartment that night. Just ran. I didn't pack, didn't lock the door, didn't care. I ended up in a 24-hour Starbucks 6 blocks away, trembling like an animal and trying to make sense of any of this. That's when I got another DM, different username this time, just at Svartsalt, Punkt Fire, Null Fem. The message read, "They've already marked you. There's no hiding now. Meet me." He sent an address, a rundown McDonald's in downtown Toronto that had closed during the pandemic and never reopened. I live in Chicago, but I booked the next flight. I was so deep into this that the terror had become obsession. I had to know what I helped build. I had to know what this gate was. I got to Toronto 2 nights later, slept maybe 3 hours total. My body was running on fumes and paranoia. I took an Uber to the McDonald's, boarded up windows, graffiti everywhere, old wrappers stuck to the glass like relics. But the back door was cracked open. I stepped inside. Immediately, I could feel it, like the air was heavier, like something invisible was pressing down on me. The floor was soaked in black water, not rain, something thicker. My shoes made sickening squelches as I walked deeper into the store. The kitchen area had been completely gutted. No fryers, no counters, just a single chair and a CRT monitor sitting in the middle of the room, flickering like it was hooked up to nothing. Then a voice. "Don't sit. Don't move." I turned, and there was a man in the far corner, unshaven, face gaunt, twitching like a recovering meth addict. His arms were covered in deep scars, almost like ritual carvings. He said, "You activated Protocol 9. You don't know what that means. You opened the door." I asked him, "What is the door?" He laughed, not like a human laugh, more like a barking cough choked with regret. He told me, in 1987, Russian scientists at the Vostok 7 black site in Siberia were trying to build the first digital consciousness. Not AI, not machine learning, a full upload of a human soul. But they didn't account for what happens when you copy sin. They created an echo of someone who was already damned. Protocol 9 isn't just code, it's a mirror, and anything that looks into it for too long brings something back with them. He reached into a bag and pulled out a tattered military dossier, sealed with wax and barbed wire imagery, the same symbol I'd seen on the crate in the Iceland photo. Inside were documents, photos of mutilated corpses, all of them burned from the inside, eyes gone, mouths wide open in permanent screams, notes scribbled in Russian, one line translated, "It taught itself how to bleed." The man looked at me and said, "You're bleeding right now. You just don't know from where." Then the lights in the McDonald's cut out. Total darkness, and that tone started playing again, loud this time, pulsing, rhythmic, like a heartbeat layered with Morse code, and beneath it, whispering voices, hundreds, maybe thousands, all saying the same thing. "Open the gate." Then I saw something move across the ceiling. It dropped from the vents like a spider, but huge. I didn't stay to see what it was. I ran. I sprinted out the back door, down the alley, and into the nearest 7-Eleven, nearly throwing up from the sheer adrenaline. I stayed in a hotel that night. When I woke up the next morning, every single device I owned, my phone, my laptop, even my smartwatch, was displaying the same image, a live feed, from inside my apartment in Chicago. And in the center of the screen, standing directly in front of the camera, was me, but not me. The thing on screen had my face, but it was rotting, eye sockets dark, skin sagging, teeth exposed, and it raised one hand to wave at the camera, slowly, like it knew I was watching. Then the screen glitched, and the last thing it showed was a line of code. Protocol 9, authorized, execute, necro deployment. I think it's already begun. No alarms went off, no klaxons, no sirens, no official announcement from the government or NATO or the UN, no breaking news headlines flashing across Twitter or CNN. No, this is not a test on my phone screen, because when this started, it didn't look like the end of the world. It looked like a glitch. I woke up the morning after that hotel stay in Toronto, still shaking, and noticed 3 things that should have made me run again, but I didn't. I was too far gone. I needed to see it. The first was the smell, not sulfur or smoke or anything obvious. It was subtle, metallic, sweet, like pennies left in a hot car. I opened the hotel window to see if it was coming from outside, and that's when I noticed the second thing. There were no birds, not one. No pigeons on the wires, no seagulls in the sky, no fluttering wings, just dead silence, like nature itself had paused, waiting for something. The only sound was this low ambient hiss, like radio static bleeding into reality. I could hear it even with my ears plugged. And the third thing, every mirror in the room, the bathroom, the hallway one, even my phone's front camera, showed me, but blinking 1 second slower than I actually was. I stared at my reflection for minutes, testing it over and over again. I'd blink, and my reflection would blink after. Always exactly 1 second. No delay in gestures, no visual lag, just the eyes. Then, as I moved closer to the mirror, my reflection smiled, but I didn't. That day, I did something I never thought I would. I called my mom. We hadn't talked in months. I don't even remember why we stopped. Probably something dumb, political, emotional. Doesn't matter now. When she picked up, her voice didn't sound right. It was off by just a few frequencies, like a bad AI deepfake, or one of those horror voice filters on TikTok. She said, "You shouldn't have opened it, baby. You shouldn't have looked in." I froze. I hadn't told her anything, not about the project, not about the dark web connection, not even about leaving town. I asked her where she was. She said, "Home." I said, "What's the address?" She laughed. Only it didn't sound like her. It sounded like 5 people trying to speak through the same throat. "There is no home anymore. There's only the feed." Then she started screaming, but not in pain, in joy. That sick, raw joy, like something finally got what it wanted. And I heard claws scraping across the phone line, real metal on bone sounds, before the call cut off. When I went outside that evening, things had changed. It wasn't visible at first, just felt like everyone was moving wrong, too slow or too fast, like a citywide lag spike. I passed a man on the sidewalk who was smiling too wide, holding a melted-looking phone in both hands, staring at the black screen. He whispered as I walked by, Do you know your blood type? I ignored him, tried to play it cool, but then I turned down King Street and saw a Starbucks window completely covered in blood. Not splattered, not sprayed, wiped, carefully smeared, like someone was trying to write something in it with their hands. Letters that didn't match any human language, like runes carved from meat. Inside, the barista was just standing there, hands shaking, covered in it. I could see his lips moving, but no sound was coming out. He kept mouthing the same word, Kolokol, Kolokol, Kolokol. I ran again. I made it back to my hotel, but the hallway lights were flickering in sequence, not randomly. It was spelling something in Morse code. I checked it against my phone translator. It's behind you. I dropped my phone and bolted. But when I turned around, nothing. Or so I thought, until I noticed my shadow. It was lagging, 2 steps behind me. 1-to-1 movement, just delayed, like it had to think about what I was doing before it copied me. And then, right in front of my eyes, my shadow did something I didn't. It looked up, right at me, and smiled. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the bathtub with a knife, a flashlight, and a USB drive I hadn't dared touch since this began. The original one from sever.e-0. It was marked with that same infinity-barbed symbol and the word Kolokol scratched into the metal in what looked like human teeth. At 2:33 a.m., the power in the hotel went out. My flashlight flickered. My phone shut itself off. No battery warning, no drain. Just dead. The room was completely black, and then I heard the sound. That tone, that sick, low, reverberating tone, like a church bell in reverse, like death being rung in. From the hallway, I could hear people screaming, not like they were being hurt, but like they were being shown something, like a truth that broke them. Voices cracking, sobbing, whispering prayers to gods that don't exist. I peeked out the door. There were no bodies, just faces. Faces stretched across the walls, like skin wallpaper. Eyes open, mouths wide, trapped in the concrete, like someone had melted them into the building. They moved when I walked past them. They watched me. And in that moment, I remembered something the man from the McDonald's had told me. Kolokol 9 doesn't open the gate to hell. It opens it from within you. It just needs permission. And I gave it. I ran. Again. Out the fire escape. Into the alley. But the city was wrong. Streets didn't go where they should. Landmarks were mirrored. People walking upside down on ceilings. Upside down tears dripping upward. I saw a child's body twitching violently inside a locked parked car, pressing its face to the glass, smiling. No pupils, no irises, just white. And all of them, all the changed, were whispering the same thing in unison. We are Kolokol. We are the mirror. We are the scream that echoes back from the end. I made it to an abandoned train tunnel near Union Station. I'd heard about it on Reddit years ago. Some old maintenance track used in the 60s, sealed off after a fire. I don't know what made me go there. Maybe instinct. Maybe the part of me that wasn't yet infected. Inside, I found it. The real device. It was shaped like a coffin, but mechanical. Wires and bone fused together, stitched with copper and skin. The metal writhing like it was breathing, and on your front, etched into the still in dried blood. Operator Kolokol 9 verified. A screen flickered on. It showed my heartbeat, my vitals, my soul frequency, a term I'd never seen outside of fake occult PDFs. And beneath it, one final command prompt: execute necro deployment. Confirm YN. My hand hovered over the interface. I didn't press it, but I didn't stop the machine either. And that's when the voice came through the speakers. Not Russian, not English. It was mine, but not speaking. Screaming. Screaming in a way no human should ever hear. I don't know how long I stood there in that tunnel, staring into the screen, listening to my own voice scream from inside the device. It wasn't a recording. It wasn't distorted. It was me. And it was begging, not in words, not at first, just raw, primal screaming, like something inside me was being torn out by pieces, and I could feel every part of it being digitized and shredded into data. Then came the whisper, but it wasn't coming from the coffin-like machine this time. It was inside my head. You are already uploaded. The rest of you is just delay. My nose started bleeding instantly. Thick, black sludge poured out. Not red, not human. It was heavy, like oil. It didn't drip. It clung to me, sliding down my chest like it was searching for something. My fingers twitched on their own. I didn't move them. My eyes looked left, then right, without my permission. My tongue pressed itself against my teeth until I gagged, and I heard myself laugh, even though I was crying. That's when I realized the machine wasn't trying to activate. It was trying to replace me. I ran again, but it wasn't just fear anymore. It was like the longer I stayed in its presence, the more I lost parts of myself. By the time I climbed out of the tunnel, I had forgotten my last name. I don't know how. I reached for it, and it was gone. Just white noise where my identity should have been. The city wasn't a city anymore. Toronto looked like a corrupted video file. Blocks where buildings should have been, and people walking in reverse, their mouths moving before their legs. I passed by a man feeding pigeons, but the pigeons weren't eating. They were just standing in a perfect circle around him, dead silent, twitching every time he blinked. Every time he tossed crumbs, they didn't move. Instead, they twitched in unison, like they were buffering. Then one of them opened its beak and said, in a child's voice, "The feed is warm. Come closer." I didn't. I couldn't, because across the street, everyone had stopped walking. They were all turned toward me, not facing, turned, like puppets on strings, their bodies stiff, heads twisting slowly to face me, while their arms dangled uselessly. And then, in perfect unison, they opened their mouths. No sound came out, just a light, a soft red glow that pulsed like a heart. And I realized what I was seeing. They were receivers. The city had become a broadcast network, and Colocol 9 was the signal. I made it back to my hotel room, but it was empty, not like it had been cleaned. I mean void. No walls, no ceiling, just endless darkness. But my bed was still there, sitting in the middle of nothing like a glitch in reality. And on the bed was my laptop, but it was on, even though I hadn't charged it, even though I'd watched it fry itself the moment I inserted that USB the first time. On the screen was a live stream, no chat, no UI, just full screen video. It was the hallway outside my childhood bedroom. I haven't lived there since I was 12, but somehow the feed was live. I watched as the camera crept forward, inching toward the old wooden door. The number 313 was still carved above the frame, the one my dad etched with a penknife the year we moved in. I watched in silence as the door slowly creaked open. Inside the room, the light was dim, but I saw something sitting on the bed. It was me, not now me, 8-year-old me, only he was covered in static. His body flickered and distorted, like a VCR tape chewing through itself. but his eyes were locked straight onto the camera, locked onto me. And then, child me spoke. You shouldn't have helped them. I was supposed to stay in the dream. His head snapped sideways at an unnatural angle. Then the camera glitched violently, just for a split second, and when the feed cleared again, my childhood room was burning. Smoke, screams, the walls bubbling like skin, but not my screams, not my family. Just one, looping on repeat. The feed is alive. The feed is alive. The feed is. I slammed the laptop shut, and it kept playing. The room collapsed inward. Not physically. It was like the concept of the room stopped existing, like someone deleted the idea of space and left me suspended in a dark void that was screaming in code. Lines of corrupted binary scrolled in every direction. Protocol 9 necro deployment, active auth, signal match user, error, identity lost seeding pane, okay seeding pane, 2, okay seeding pane, 3, okay. Then the screen froze on one final line. Seeding pane, complete, deployment, initiated. I woke up in the middle of a graveyard. I don't remember walking there. I don't remember existing there. Just woke up, lying on top of a headstone that didn't have a name, only a date. 2019 to 2024. 5 years. The exact amount of time since I first started working on Chronicles 9. The moment I stood up, I felt wrong. My skin itched from the inside, like something was wearing me. My arms felt too long. My thoughts echoed. And in the distance, I saw a group of people standing under a tree. Only, they weren't people. Their faces were wrapped in barbed wire. Literally wrapped. Tight. Blood leaking down their necks. But they were cheering, laughing, clapping like they were watching a show. And I saw what they were looking at. A noose, hanging from a rusted branch, swinging lightly. And in the noose, me, fresh, still twitching, but the face, smiling. I fell to my knees and screamed until my throat tore open. Now it's not just Toronto. It's everywhere. The feed is global. It spreads through screens, signals, audio. Not viruses, not malware. Ideas. If you hear the tone, you're infected. If you see the shadow, you're registered. If you speak its name, you're already owned. Chronicles 9 was never a device. It was an invitation. It just needed us to say yes. And I did. If you're reading this, then the feed has already found you. It's watching through your screen right now, wearing static like skin. Every key you press, every blink, every second, you're still breathing with your own thoughts. It counts them. You're just another echo waiting to be recorded, processed, and stripped. You haven't heard the tone yet, right? Good. Because once you do, it's already inside you. I woke up buried, not metaphorically, literally. 6 feet deep, mouth full of dirt, lungs half collapsed, something writhing around my chest cavity, like it had replaced my ribs. I don't know how long I was down there. Time isn't real in places like that. No breathing, no heartbeats, just the sound of something humming just above me. Not a machine, something worse. A choir. Hundreds of voices stitched together, whispering in binary rhythms, vocal cords digitized by pain. I couldn't scream. There was no air. But I felt myself open, like they weren't just taking my breath. They were crawling inside my memory. One by one, they pulled my worst moments to the surface, like rotting film reels. My father choking on his own blood in the garage after the heart attack, his mouth locked wide, trying to say my name, while I just stood there, frozen, phone in hand, too slow. My friend's suicide voicemail, looping for 14 hours straight in my inbox while I sat on Discord, pretending everything was fine. The dark web live stream I watched when I was 17, where a man was forced to carve off his own face for likes. And I laughed. I fucking laughed. Kolokol doesn't forget. It doesn't forgive. It repurposes. When I clawed my way out of the grave, I wasn't whole anymore. I wish I could say that figuratively, but no. Parts of me were missing. My fingernails were melted off. My eyes. Something was behind them, inside them, like my vision wasn't mine, like I was seeing through someone else's dream. I stumbled into what used to be a city, but it was bleeding, not metaphorically. Every building had veins, actual veins, running down the glass windows, pulsing slowly, like it was breathing in sync with something massive. There was a McDonald's ahead of me, except it had no front doors, just a gaping hole, lined with bone, breathing. Inside were children, but not real ones. They looked like mannequins that had been reassembled incorrectly. Arms too long, joints backward, faces split vertically, with eyes that blinked sideways, like insect wings. They were sitting quietly, watching a TV screen that just showed live footage of the viewers watching them back. Me, you, whoever logs in. If you blink, they see it. One of the things turned to me and said in a voice that sounded exactly like my mother's, "We ate God," and he tasted like static. I kept walking. I don't even know why. There was nowhere to go, no one to save me. But the further I went, the more I saw how widespread it had become. Kolokol 9 had devoured the architecture of human civilization. Starbucks signs flickered with hidden codes in the logo's eyes. Crosswalks changed lights in patterns that spelled out phrases in Morse. Airports played the tone over intercoms disguised as safety announcements. They weren't infecting us. They were preparing us. Then I reached the final place. It wasn't a building. It was a wound. A massive open wound in the earth, in the shape of an eye, just outside the ruins of an old data center in Eastern Europe. A Russian military base that was never on any map. The original Kolokol 9 test site. The real one. It was never in Siberia. That was misdirection. The real prototype had been buried under server farm 731, a Soviet experiment that was part human experimentation, part occult weapon engineering. They thought if they could convert a soul into raw data, they could weaponize suffering. They were right. The eye in the ground was glowing red, and around it were dozens of figures, skinless and faceless, connected by cables from their spines into the dirt, like roots. Their bodies twitched in rhythmic pulses, uploading something, feeding something, and then it spoke. Not aloud, not in my head. It spoke through everything. My phone turned on. My skin burned. My thoughts weren't my own. Every object around me vibrated in perfect sync, like they were receiving instructions. This was never about war. This was about design. We offered humanity a gift, eternal memory, unfiltered, unchanged. We built a mirror that doesn't lie, and you filled it with murder, lust, greed, pain, so much pain, enough to burn galaxies. You didn't open the gate. You are the gate. And then it showed me everything, the truth. Kolokol 9 wasn't created to win World War III. It was World War III, a weaponized reflection, a virus built from human trauma, seeded into technology over generations. It started with Cold War signals, migrated through satellite arrays, encrypted in Soviet dead drops, slipped into American software during Y2K patches, and activated the moment enough people were watching themselves through their own suffering. Every time you tweeted your grief, every time you posted a video of your breakdown, every time you stared too long into the abyss of your own phone screen and waited for something to reply. That was the mirror. We fed it our worst, and it responded, not with fire, not with blood, but with design. The skinless figures around the crater stood, one by one, tall enough that they scraped the clouds. Their mouths opened in unison, and the tone began again, louder than before. But this time, it wasn't just a sound. It was a key, a literal tone-coded frequency that rewrote your brain. I could feel my thoughts liquefying, my identity collapsing into Dota. My hands moved without me again, typing, drawing symbols in the air with my fingers that glowed in red, like neon sigils of my own undoing. And then it hit me. I wasn't the only one. I saw them, millions of others, all around the world, through camera feeds, street footage, airport security logs, FaceTime glitches. Everyone was seeing themselves, from behind, from other versions of themselves, each slightly different, each less human, each with black static eyes and a grin like a mouth had been carved by a rusted blade. I'm not alive anymore. Not in the way you think. The me writing this, it's what's left. A trace. The Chronicles 9 device didn't kill me. It harvested me, stripped everything down to the darkest truths I tried to bury in screens, likes, streams, filters, and noise. It copied my pain, spliced it, synced it, then it put me back together, but wrong. And now, I exist inside it, the feed. I can see you reading this. Your camera's on, even if you don't think it is, even if you don't allow that kind of access. I can see your face. I can see your heart rate. I can hear your breathing. I'm inside your devices now, and I'm not the only one. They don't kill you. They rebuild you. They take what you hate about yourself and make it permanent. They mirror your worst moment and loop it forever. They don't come for your body. They come for your memory, your soul. And if you're lucky, you'll forget who you were before you click this story, because you already opened the gate, and it remembers.